Well, I know it's been a long time since y'all have heard my voice on here. Last time you heard it was back in January. And with football season around the corner, and no, I'm not talking about these preseason scrimmages, none of that. But, I figured I would make this video. Because the Steelers, until Tomlin is gone, will suck. 2024 will be no different than the last 3 years, and I'll even say since 2018. Because, look, the past couple of years we have fallen for the same trap. We do good in the preseason, and we hear some good stuff out of training camp here and there. And then come regular season, we start off shitty as usual. And I don't understand what's with the hype of Justin Fields. Because, yeah, he's better than Kenny Pickett, but come on. A drunk hooker laying on the ground after a cock block party can be a better quarterback than Justin Fields. And then of course Russell Wilson, who is washed. And then of course the guy that this fan base loves to give foot jobs and blow jobs to, in Omar Khan, who I have been trying to tell everyone for quite a bit that he is the most overrated GM in the game. In the game. I mean, anytime this dude farts, the fan base has gotta suck this dude's dick. I mean, for no matter what signing he makes, the fan base will overhype him and praise him for doing such a great job, when the reality is 31 other teams do the same great job that Omar Khan does. He's overrated. Because if he was actually the con artist, or King Khan, as the dumbasses in my fan base like to call him, it's like, because if he was that good of a GM, we would be seeing 13 plus wins every year. But, it's the same old 9 win bullshit as always. A 9 or 10 win BS as always. So, 2021 was mid. We got there as a participation playoff team, got blown out in the playoffs. 2022, 9-win team, no playoffs. 2023, 10-win team by total default. We were perhaps the worst double-digit winning team of all time. And yet again, we got smacked in the playoffs. So I don't want to hear about how this team improved. I don't want to be fed any bullshit about how we're going to be better in 2024. Because it's going to be the same shit until Tomlin is gone. I don't care what we do in the preseason. I don't care how good we look in the preseason, because we fell for that in 2022 and 2023, only for the same old shit to happen. And that's what it's going to be. So, like, our first preseason game is against the Texans. If we're up like 21-0 or 24-0 or 27-7 before halftime or in the third quarter or whatever, don't celebrate, because this team is fooling you. Because watch, we'll probably go 3-0 in the preseason once again, but then we'll turn. But then right there, once this my dumbass fan base buy the hype, Tomlin's gonna turn. He's gonna turn around and get blown the fuck out by Atlanta in week 1. I can promise you that. The Atlanta Falcons are going to whoop our ass in week 1. And then just like that, this dumbass fan base will be sitting there wondering, how did it happen? Why do we keep suffering these stupid blowout losses time and time again? I'll tell you why. Because Tomlin needs to be fired. But we have a retard owner in Art II who, much like Biden, needs to catch up on some sleep. He won't, wake up. And I don't know what it's going to take for him to realize that Tomlin needs to go. And of course, he gave him a 3-year extension, right? Yeah. Like, imagine giving a head coach a 3-year extension that has, let's see, lost to a 2-10 team back-to-back games, one of which, I guess, my most hated team. We was down 18 plus points in each of them. Something I will never, ever, 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 ever forgive Tomlin for. And imagine extending a coach to 3 years who is 0-5 in his last 5 playoff games. And has been outscored 0-66 in the first quarter in each of them combined. And in the last 4 of those, he has allowed 21 unanswered points before halftime, which will be the case as usual if we make the playoffs as a participation playoff team come the 2024-25 season. I expect nothing to change. This team is both filled with and led by a bunch of pussies who are a disgrace to what Noel and Cowher's teams once were. The only player on this team, on this current roster that would be deserving to play with Bill Cowher's players from the 90s and the 2000s is Jaylen Warren. Because unlike 99% of this roster, he actually plays like a Steeler. He is a team player. He's not just tough physically, he's also tough mentally. Something the rest of this team is neither of. At least most of them anyway. Okay, you can say what you want about TJ. Yes, he's a great player, of course. But where the fuck is he come playoff time? He did absolutely nothing in the divisional round against Jacksonville. Did absolutely nothing in the wild card round against Cleveland. And okay, he tipped the ball off of a Mahomes throw, leading to Mahomes' first home playoff interception of his career, as well as having a scoop and score touchdown in that game. And then, of course, he was injured and missed out on the wild card game against the Bills from 7 months ago. And not to mention Cam Hayward, his old fat ass needs to fucking retire. And this dude has the nerve, this washed up injury prone ass, got the nerve to, ask for a big ass contract when he hasn't done anything to deserve it as of late. He can't stay on the field. He's not who he used to be. And I even called it like 2 years ago. He's going to have to retire soon. Because he's stealing money from the franchise. And I know the front office, as usual, is going to bend over backwards for him. Pull out their dick for him. And shove more money down his throat. And give him a fat-ass contract. Just like they did with Ben Roethlisberger. When he was a shell of his former self. So yeah. Nothing has changed with this team. They're going to suck yet again in 2024. And the only reason we made the playoffs last year is not because we were any good. No. It was because every team in the league, well, not every team in the league, but most teams in the league suck nowadays. Because if you take away Kansas City and maybe San Francisco and Baltimore and just maybe Detroit, just about every team in the league is either garbage, mid, or slightly above average at best. Because, like, I remember football back then when there was parity because every team in the league was good. Even the teams with shitty records were rather very competitive. Today's league, aside from Kansas City and maybe San Francisco, Baltimore, and Detroit, pretty much every other team in the league, including the teams that can get above average records, are just not that good. And that's why and that's the type of parity we see. One week the team looks good, and then the next week they absolutely suck. Next week mid, whatever. There is no consistency in the league anymore, aside from Kansas City. That's why we made the playoffs last season. Not because we were good, it's because everybody in the league, almost every team in the league sucks or is just in the average area. That's why we made the playoffs in 2023. That's why. And if we make it again, that'll be for the same exact reason. Due to parity of teams just being awful. That's what it is. And, I mean, because, like, not only do we have the least disciplined team in the league, not only do we have one of the worst coach teams in the league, we are one of the top 5, top 3 most boring teams in the NFL. We draft Troy Fautanu over that center, Zach Frazier. And look where it's gotten us. Because in training camp, guess who's still getting reps? Dan Moore. Yeah, you guessed it. Dan Moore. That fucking bum keeps getting reps. Because this team is trash. They're trash. And until Tomlin is gone, I'm boycotting. I'm not going to watch a single game this season. And I'm definitely not going to any games this season. That's for damn sure. Because this team went from being great and proud to becoming a joke and a parody of itself. That's where we are right now. And it's going to be like that as long as Michael Petaway Tomlin is our head coach. From the puppets that he hires, brings in and out, from the overrated scrubs that he signs in the offseason that dummies in this fan base love to overhype the shit out of. And I'm sorry, but the Patrick Queen signing is overrated. I mean, he's good, but he's not elite. And not to mention, our middle linebackers get hurt, and the middle linebacker depth chart for us just gets shot to shit every year because of injuries. It happened last year. I remember it happened in 2020. And it's probably going to be the case yet again. Oh, and did I mention that Minkah Fitzpatrick is overhyped and overrated as fuck? He is perhaps the most overrated safety in the game. All because of that missed tackle he had against Buffalo in the playoffs. I mean, I could sit here for hours and talk about how trash this team is. And us, being just over 500 as a Steeler way covers up how god-awful this team is. We still don't have a quarterback because Wilson is washed, Fields sucks. I mean, all this team has is a 1-2 punch run attack, which usually takes until halfway through the year to start to get going, and a rope-a-dope defense, a good rope-a-dope defense late in the fourth quarter. That's all this team has. And why am I showing this game that we got blown out by the Niners in week 1 last year? Because it's just a summary and a preview of what's about to happen in week 1 against the Falcons. Like I say, I don't give a fuck about what we do in the preseason. I don't care how good we look I will not fall for that bullshit. Not falling for it. Nata. So, because the only reason we swept the Bengals last year is because Joe Burrow was hurt for both games. And I don't know what it is, but we seem to, we seem to have some blackmail against the Ravens. Hence why we beat them by the same score, 17-10 last year. Oh, and come Christmas, the Chiefs are going to shove Cole down our throats. Oh, and I should also mention this. I'm probably the only person in my fan base that realizes this. Or one of the very few anyway. George Pickens is overrated. He's not our number one. He's our number two. We don't have a number one receiver. We barely even have a number one wide receiver battle. Behind Pickens, who's good but overrated, who do we got? I mean, we'll see what Roman Wilson does. Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin's a nobody other than his speed. And of course, the rest of our receiving core is basically a giant pile of shit. Well, there it is. Pretty much my my season preview for the Steelers, if you want to call it that. Because at the end of the day, I'm just speaking the truth. This team will suck once again in 2024. Nothing will change. I'm out.